Hi, it's Margaret, and here we are. Fall is basically upon us, and there are still quite a few tasks that I have to wrap up in the garden. And a couple of them, including the one that I'm going to tackle today, are just a little bit late. I actually should have done this a month ago. I'm thinking ideally I would have done this at the beginning of September, and that is transplanting some of the perennials that are in my holding bed. Now, if you recall, a few months ago, I planted all these seedlings that I had grown from seed. They were all perennials into a holding bed so that they could get a little bit larger, and they've been growing all summer. And as I said, I should have gotten them into the ground, most of them anyway, in September. But September kind of came and went, and it was a really busy month. There are a lot of plants in this bed, and I believe there were 27 different varieties of things. And in terms of the actual individual plants themselves, probably in the neighborhood of 50 or 60, I'm thinking. Probably more than that, actually. And I'm not going to get to all of them today. I'm not even going to get to all of them this fall. I'm hoping that a lot of these winter over until next year. I think I am going to be doing 4, maybe 5 of them, and pulling them out and transplanting them into a bed that's beside our front walkway. And I have my kind of little plan here that tells me how tall they get, the spacing I should use, that kind of thing, just in case when I get there, I decide that, maybe the spot that I was looking at isn't the best spot and I can kind of move it around. And that way I know how tall something is going to get and I don't put something that's like really tall in front of something that's really short. So I do have my little notes. My plan is there is some salvia I want to move. There is also some penstemon. I think I'm going to move 2 varieties of penstemon, as well as Calamintha I'm going to move. Everything else I'm thinking I am going to leave in the bed. It should be fine. Famous last words, but they should be okay, I'm thinking. I guess the only kind of issue is raised beds are a little bit more exposed to the elements. So there is a little bit higher risk, I guess, in terms of overwintering and them coming back next year. But I think the majority of these annuals are zone 5 or lower. There's nothing in zone 6, actually, I'm pretty sure. So zones 4 should definitely overwinter, no problem. Zone 5, in my garden, it's no problem. In the raised bed, we'll see. I think it should be okay, because even zone 6 perennials, if I give them a little bit of protection for the first year anyway, tend to do okay in my garden these days, right, with climate change and all that. So I'm thinking that they should be fine, and then in the spring I will transplant them all. In terms of where we are climate-wise, our last frost date is actually October the 3rd, which is already come and gone. We have not had a frost yet, nowhere near, in fact. Most of our days have been relatively warm in the low to mid 20s Celsius, and I'll put what that is in Fahrenheit on the screen. And I think our weather is going to turn a little bit as of today, tomorrow, something like that, where it's going to be a little bit colder, but I don't think it's going to get anywhere near freezing in the next week anyway. As long as I get these in and they are able to settle in the next few weeks before the ground is actually frozen, I think we should be fine. So let me just turn the camera around and I will show you the ones that I am going to dig out. Here we have the salvias. The ones that I'm looking to move are the variety called Rose Rhapsody, and I believe it starts in here somewhere. Let me look at the tag. Oh, here it is, Rose Rhapsody. So it's going to be this one. I think there's only 2. So this little guy here, and there's either 1 or 2 over here. So those I'm going to move. And then there's also a couple of Rose Rhapsody up here that I'm going to move. So those are really the only salvia I want to move right now. I have a few that are larger, like this guy here, which is a little bit chewed up, it looks like. Sky Dance. I'm not going to move that yet because the bed I actually want to move a lot of these perennials to is newly sheet mulched, and I'm just not comfortable putting stuff. I thought I would be fine by the end of the year, but I still don't feel comfortable putting things in there because I still see quite a few weeds and grass coming up. So I want to wait until at least next spring to do that. So those are going to stay. The next one here is the Penstemon, and this is Dazzler Blend. It actually still has the flower heads here. I have to cut these off. I'll probably just cut them down to like around here. And I have a whole row of them right up there. So that's one variety. And the other variety is Mystica, which is this guy here. It's a completely different variety, as you can see, with much larger leaves. And I also have a whole row of that here. So I think I am going to take pretty much all of these. The Coreopsis is doing so well. That is beautiful. Once again, this is going in a bed that I'm not exactly ready to put it in yet. So it's going to have to stay here over the winter, and hopefully it does okay. Beside it, with these spent flower blooms, that is the one that I'm going to be moving. And this is the Calamintha. And I have two varieties here. I have a blue and a white variety. And again, it goes all the way up the row there. It's kind of being hidden underneath here by the Coreopsis, and that's basically it. So what I am going to do then is I am going to first dig up the plants. I think I might do one at a time. So I'll dig up a bunch of one variety of plant first, bring it over, get it planted, and then I'll come back for the next variety instead of trying to lug, a bunch of different things and getting things mixed up. So that's what I'm going to do. So I have a bucket here and I have a trowel. So I'm just going to try to dig up each of these plants individually. I'm going to start with the Mystica Penstemon, and I do think I am going to leave a couple in the bed because I don't think I'm going to need all of these in the spot that I chose. I may, but I don't think I will. So I'm going to dig up all of them except maybe two, put them in the bucket, and then bring them over to the front. Now, when I'm digging them up, I am kind of going to go around each one with the trowel, a few inches away from the center of the plant, or as much as I can when the plants are close together, kind of in between the plants. So here we are. That is a good set of roots on that. That's beautiful. Okay, so here is my bucket, and I ended up getting 7 plants from there, and I have 2 left. The kind of big one here, and then there's a smaller one over there, and those I am going to leave in the bed. Let's get these guys out to the front. Here is the spot that right around all this area here that I am going to put the Penstemon that I just dug out. I have a hellebore over here. I have some Agastaki actually that I grew from seed here, as well as there's a clematis, one of those shrub clematises that don't grow very tall and don't need any support, or don't need much support, I guess, right over there, and some sedums. So I'm thinking this spot here is going to be perfect for that. As you can see, the hostas are already starting to die back a little bit. So this will actually be perfect because the Penstemon will grow about 24 inches tall or so, and it will help shade some of those hostas. Right now they do get quite a bit of sun, although this type of hosta in my garden seems to be okay with a bit of sun. So I'm not overly worried about that, but it certainly won't do them any harm. The other thing is that these Penstemon, which are right over here, they grow to be about 24 inches wide. I'm going to put them a little closer than that so that they form kind of a nice cohesive drift. And I'm thinking around the 18-inch mark or so, maybe even a little bit closer. I think think I'm just going to eyeball it. The 7 that I have here will be perfect for filling up this entire space right there. This variety is actually supposed to develop dark leaves as the temperatures get cooler. I don't really see much evidence of that yet. And I'm a little actually surprised that that's the case, unless the temperature has to get really cool. I'm going to keep an eye on that to see what happens. That's a little bit closer than 18 inches, but I don't want any space between the plants once they get to their full maturity. I want to create a garden where you don't need a ton of mulch and where you don't need to do a ton of weeding either. And the best way to do that is to really pack those plants in. So they're a little bit closer than the 18 inches, but I think that's fine. In order to get these in the ground, I got my big shovel out, because that little trowel, it's a lot easier. Like when you're going in the actual ground, for me, it's a lot easier using a shovel that I can kind of step on and put my foot on rather than the little trowel. So that's what I'm going to do. If you have like amazingly soft soil or sandy soil, then I'm sure a little trowel is fine. But in my case, it's always better to get the big guns out, because I often end up hitting a few roots or a rock or something. Now, I don't need a huge hole to put these in because these are not big root balls. And I am not going to bother putting in any fertilizer. Essentially, I'm just burying it, the root ball that is, up to the same level it was buried in the bed. So, and then I'm just going to put the mulch back around. I don't want to pile the mulch up against the stems of the plant. I just want it to kind of come up to the plant, but not necessarily up the stems. You kind of feather it out a little bit as it's getting closer to the plant. Okay, so there we go, all planted up. I think that's going to look amazing. So next up, I think I'm going to do the salvia. For that, I'm actually thinking of putting it here, right beside that little mugo pine right there. I did have a dicentra here called Luxuriant, one of those alpine dicentras, and it looks like it's not doing so hot. I'm not sure whether it's just completely died back or what. So I'm actually thinking I put these dicentra in a little bit too much sun. They are the alpine variety, so they can take more sun apparently than the traditional bleeding heart that generally goes in the shade. But I think this may have been a bit much. So if it survives and comes back next year, I'm actually thinking I'm going to move it to a shadier spot. But anyhow, back to here. Yeah, so I think I am going to put the, what was it, Rose Rhapsody, I think, Salvia, right in there, in between the mugo pine and these rocks over here. In between the rocks is actually a yucca, and I personally am not a huge fan of yucca. I just find they get a little bit unwieldy and difficult to deal with. I just don't really like them. So I'm trying to get rid of it. I keep cutting it back. Digging it out is almost impossible, and it keeps coming back, but at least it's coming back smaller. So one of these days, I think it'll be gone, hopefully, but we'll see. Anyhow, let's go back to the bed and dig out the salvias. So these are quite small still, these two that are here. The one that's on this side, I think, is quite a bit bigger. So Rose Rhapsody as well, it gets about 16 to 18 inches tall, so it's going to be perfect for this spot here. And you space it 18 to 24 inches apart. I'm going to do the same thing I did with the other one, and I'm going to kind of do a grouping of 3, I think, here. And I have 2 more. And those 2, I think I'm going to put on the other side of the walkway, kind of to create a little bit of balance, even though there's only 2. So I'm kind of bucking the whole rule of planting in odd numbers, but that's okay. So I think I'm going to plant one kind of like here. This Mugo pine here is going to get much larger. I mean, the mature size of this thing is about 3 by 3, so 3 feet wide, 3 feet tall, but it takes a long time for it to get there. So what I'm doing is I'm just going to plant perennials relatively close to it, and as it kind of gets larger, I'll just simply remove anything that starts to get in the way, and I'll move it somewhere else. I think I will do this one here and kind of do this like that. How about that? I think that looks pretty good. This is the other area that I'm thinking I am going to put some salvia. I don't have any salvia in this spot. And I'm thinking, here's another dicentra that's obviously doing a little better than the first one that I have there. This is a different variety, but still not as good as it can, I think. So that one I think I'm going to move as well. So I'm thinking I am going to do one kind of back here, like that, and a little bit further up. I could do it over here, or I could do it over here. I'm thinking I want to do it over here because I like the contrast of the leaf texture here with the Brunnera right there, so I'm going to do it there. I'm actually thinking it's a little too close to the Brunnera, so because I am going to be moving this one, I'm going to move it a little bit further out in this direction. So I'm not 100% sure how much I like this here. The more I'm kind of looking at it, the more I am thinking that a third one would be good there. But the great thing about this is I can always grow a third one from seed next spring. I just have to remember to make a note of it. Oh, I think I hit a rock. Oh, not too bad. Oh, another one. Okay, there we go. Okay. And there we are. So we'll see how those fare. I'm going to go back and grab that Calamintha. And for that, we're just going to kind of scooch down here to this side of the walkway. And I am planning on putting a grouping over here. And if we go up here, I want to put another grouping here. That is the Blue Bayou salvias, and they've been nibbled on by something. I have no idea what, but I'm sure they'll be fine for next year. And in front of those, I want to do kind of a grouping here of the Calamintha. And I also wanted to, on this side, do another grouping, maybe in this area over here. I have 2 varieties of Calamintha. The one up here is Marvelette White, and then halfway down the row is Marvelette Blue. So let's dig up one of these. So this is what they look like right now. I'm going to cut back these spent blooms, so we'll only have these bottom leaves and bottom stems, but they are looking really, really good. So let's get digging. I may have to dig up the white and bring it there and put it in, and then the blue, or at least lay it out. If some of them do not have flowers. So far, all of the ones that I'm taking out have a few flowers left so I can see what variety it is. But this one here, these two here actually do not. Just to avoid confusion and putting the wrong variety in the wrong spot, I'm going to put out the Marvelette White first. I'm going to lay them down where I want them. And then I'm going to come back for the Marvelette Blue. Okay, so this is what happens when you don't look at the plan that you purposely drew up right there before you plant things. I actually ended up pulling up, you know how I had the two salvias here? Well, the one in the spot down here was actually where I wanted to put some of the Calamintha. So I ended up digging it up and I moved it right over there. And here you can see I'm going to put 3 of the Calamintha. These technically are only supposed to get 8 to 10 inches tall. I don't know, because I mean, this guy here looks like it's at least 12 inches tall already, even a little bit taller. So anyway, we'll see what happens with that. So I have 3 here. And then on the other side here, I have 5 that I'm going to kind of space out here. I think the spacing on these as well is around 18 inches. I'm going to double check, but I'm pretty sure it's around 18 inches. So I'm going to do the same as I did before. I'll put it a little bit closer than that, maybe around the 14-inch mark or something like that. So we have 5 there, and then down the lane right here, we have 3 over here, because I wanted kind of a little kind of grouping here. Over here, I'm planning on putting some of the Nepeta that I grew from seed, but because it has already started to die back, I don't know how comfortable I feel with putting it in now, right before winter sets in. So I'm leaving those in the bed, and I am going to plant those in the spring. The other thing is I am mixing up the blue and the white. So in this case here, I have 1 white and a couple of blue. And over here, I think I have 3 white and 2 blue. And then over here, I have 1 white and 2 blue. I don't know how that's going to work out. In my mind's eye, I think it's going to look really good. So I thought I would just try it out and see if I like it. If I find it looks a little too mishmashy and kind of everything all over the place, then I can just dig up the ones that are the wrong color per se and then put them in groupings that are all the same color. But I have a feeling this is going to look pretty good. As well, remember this dicentra, again, I am going to move it into a shadier spot in the spring. So I don't mind planting this kind of close to where it is, so long as, again, I don't disturb that once I dig that up in the spring. Oh, I think I've hit a doozy. Jeez. Oh boy. You never know what you're going to find when you dig. Here we are back at the bed, and last but not least, I am going to do this row of Dazzler Penstemon. I am going to dig these up and bring them to the front. I'm just gonna come here for a little bit of a close-up. So this is the plant. I'm going to cut back the flower stalk here, but look at the roots on these. Gorgeous. And here they are. I was able to get 9 plants out of that row. I have laid out the Dazzler blend Penstemon, and because the spacing is only 12 inches, I've put it a little bit tighter than 12 inches. Not much, but a little bit. So you can see it kind of starts there, and then we have a few going through there, and there as well. So we have that, and then on the other side of the walkway, right over here, I put a little grouping of 3 right here. And that's about it for today. I can't wait to see these come up in the spring. That's one of the joys of planting perennials, right? That every year they come up and fingers crossed they get better and better. Thank you so much for joining me today, and we will see you next time. Bye.